Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanju. I hope you're doing well today. I wanted to film a fall TBR today. I am still going to be doing monthly TBRs for myself, but I wanted to do a general fall TBR for all of the books that I really want to try and read these next couple months. I kind of made it like super broad in the sense that this isn't like a real fall TBR where when fall is over I want to read all these books. I kind of counted it as like October, November, December. I know that December is winter, but I still like reading kind of like cozier fall type books in the winter, and I also want to plan on potentially reading some Christmas books, but that'll be a whole different thing where I'll do like a Christmas TBR type thing. So with that being said, let's just get into the video. The first book on my fall TBR is The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. It is the second book in the Truly Devious series. I read the first book in the Truly Devious series last year, and I've been waiting to read it again. I have mentioned in some of my other videos that I'm a huge wuss when it comes to thriller, mystery, horror type books, so I'm kind of a once a year person. And this is the time of year that I really like to read those kinds of books, so I've been looking forward to this time of year again so I can continue the series. And the second book essentially picks up right where the last one left off, and she's still trying to solve the same murder from the first book, but also trying to get back into the academy. I am really curious. I feel like the first book kind of leaves you hanging. You think you might know who did it, you think you might have some inkling, but you really don't get any sort of clarification. So I'm looking forward to the second book to hopefully solve the mystery finally. The next book on my TBR is Reckless by Elsie Silver. It is a part of the Chestnut Springs series. I have been slowly chipping away at that series. I am now looking forward to reading Reckless, which I believe is Winter and Theo's story, and I find that super intriguing. I'm really curious as to how they're going to get to know each other and how that love story is going to bloom. I also know that most of the books have age gaps in them, and this one it's reversed where the woman in the story is older than the man. So I'll also be super interested in seeing how she kind of handles the reversal of it. I wasn't super happy with the last one in the series, which was Powerless. I didn't really care for Jasper and Sloane's stories. I didn't feel like she fleshed them out enough for me. I didn't really believe the friends to lovers thing. It was still a good book, but it wasn't my cup of tea, and it wasn't really the kind of love story that I enjoy reading. So I'm really hoping that this next one is going to be a little bit more my speed, but we'll see. The next book I have in my fall TBR is the Bridgerton books, but specifically the first one, The Duke and I, and it's by Julia Quinn. I am a Bridgerton fan. I love Bridgerton. I watched seasons 1 and 2 and 3, but before season 3 I binge watched 1 and 2 again. And I have been seeing people read the books and trying to give their reviews in terms of how accurate it is to the show or what they liked better about the books, and I really just want to see for myself. I love the show and I'm super intrigued to see how much different they are in the books. I've heard a lot about how the show leaves out details and they leave out characters or they change characters, and I also noticed that they're not going in order of the books. So I am excited to read the books, and hopefully if I like them I can read through the whole series and then anticipate what's to come. I'm still not sure if that's the best idea, because sometimes when you read the book first and then you go watch the show, you're really disappointed and let down. I haven't made up my mind. I may just read the books for the series that have already come out, but I guess we'll see if I even like the first one, because there's a lot of mixed reviews about the book series too. So I'm really excited to get into that one. The next book on my fall TBR is The Perfect Couple by Erin Hildebrand. I have not read any Erin Hildebrand books yet. I know that there are a lot of booktubers who love her stuff, and I have been eyeing a couple, and this one just really piqued my interest. I saw that they're also doing a Netflix show for it, which is really what piqued my interest. I want to watch the show, but I want to read the book first before I watch the show. I know I literally just said that I'm not sure if I like reading books before shows just because it can ruin things for you. In this case though, I think I want to read the book first just because I really want to see how they do the mystery. Whether I read the book first or I watch the show first, it's going to spoil the mystery. So for me, the question I had to ask was, which way would I rather it be spoiled? And I truly think the book is the way to go, because then I'm not missing any of the details. I'm making sure that I have the whole story exactly as Erin Hildebrand planned, and then I can watch the show. And I know that I'll know what's happening already, but it'll be fun to watch it play out on TV, in my opinion. So I really hope that within the next couple weeks I can get into that one so that I can go ahead and watch the show. Another book on my fall TBR is The Lion Women of Tehran. I'm going to mess this up. It is by Marjan Kamali, and it is a book of the month book. I got it a couple months back now. I've just kind of been waiting for the right time and for me to be in the right mood for it. It, I believe, is like an adult fiction, literary fiction, and it's about how her and her best friend experienced some events in their childhood that has caused them to not speak anymore, and she feels like whatever has happened is her fault, or she's to blame, or she's a bad person. And it's a reflection, I'm assuming, of that and how it affects her now. And I also believe that the friend from her past comes back in the future, and she has to face whatever happened between them. It just seems like a really poignant novel, and it seems like the story is going to be very intense and character driven, and I have recently been reading a lot of books like that I've really been enjoying more than I thought I would. So that's why I decided to put this one on my fall TBR, because I'd really love to get to it within the next couple weeks. The next book on my fall TBR is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The Inheritance Games is a YA fantasy series, and I have heard so much about this book on BookTube and Instagram. I know that a lot of booktubers love this series and they really recommend it, and I'm not a huge fantasy person in general, but I do like YA fantasy series occasionally. It is about a girl named Avery who is left the inheritance of this billionaire or millionaire, I'm not sure, Tobias Hawthorne, and she has to move into his mansion, which has riddles and puzzles and things inside, and she needs to also live with the family that he disinherited for her sake, and she has no idea why he left the money, and nobody in the family knows either. And so she has to move in with his 4 grandsons, and all of them have various feelings towards her. And I guess this first book is just kind of about that, maybe discovering why she was left the money and seeing her relationship with the family that she has to move in with. I'm not really sure about much of this series, and I kind of want to keep it that way. I don't really want to know too much before I go into it, because I'd really like to be able to get sucked into this story. I do sense a romantasy aspect coming. Just the fact that she's living with 4 of the grandsons, to me, screams that she's going to end up being in some sort of thing with one of them. And I don't really think that I'd mind that. I guess it really just depends on how the book goes. So I am really excited to start that series. The next book on my fall TBR is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. It is another mystery book. I think it's also a thriller. I don't believe that her books are incredibly gory or anything. I think it's more suspense thriller, which is why I'm adding it to my TBR, even though I already have like a mystery on there. I figure because the Truly Devious series is YA, that it shouldn't be too much for me if I put like another thriller on there that's not really horror. The Paris Apartment is supposed to be about this apartment in Paris, and there was a murder, and there's a couple suspects, and they're all the neighbors of the person who was killed, and that's all you know. I've heard mixed reviews about Lucy Foley's work. Some people really like her books, some people don't like her books at all. I feel like one of the main complaints I've seen is that the mysteries maybe aren't thrilling enough, or they're a little bit slow or boring. That sounds perfect to me. I'm not looking for something that's going to scare me or keep me up at night. I just want something that's got a little bit of thrill to it, a little bit of mystery, and enough to keep me satisfied without overly terrifying me. So I am excited to get into that book, and hopefully it's not too scary, but also satiates my need for a mystery. The last book in my TBR that isn't kind of magical, witchy, Halloween type themed is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I believe this is the Boys of Tommen series, which I have heard a lot about. There are a ton of people who enjoy this series. I know it's quite lengthy, and I understand that the content can be intense, and honestly that's kind of what kept me from starting it. I did read the synopsis of Binding 13 a while ago, and I just didn't feel like I was ready to pick up something like that. But recently I have been wanting to start some more series. I've been reading a lot of just like one and done books and a few duologies. So I want to start some series so I have like a world to keep revisiting and dive into. The Boys of Tommen series is one that is overall really well liked, and a lot of people fall in love with the world and the characters, and I think that I am finally ready to take the plunge and take the commitment of starting the series. And I'm really looking forward to starting this series in the fall, and hopefully I fall in love with it just as much as everybody else has. Okay, the next couple books on my Fall TBR are all Halloween type books. They're not necessarily Halloween books, and I don't believe that any of them even take place over Halloween. It's just that all of them involve magic and witches. I know that I've said that I'm not a huge fan of magic, and I'm not a huge fan of fantasy series that involve a lot of magic or magical creatures, but I think that that's a little bit different than just books about magic and witches. With these stories, it seems like a lot of the characters are witches, and that's just an aspect of the story rather than the entire story being based on the fact that they're all witches in a world with witches and the magic and those kinds of things. So hopefully I can enjoy it with that aspect not being so heavy. The first book I have is The Frame Up by Gwenda Bond, and it is about a woman named Dani who has magic, and her mother has magic, and her mom was also a very famous art thief, and she used magic to steal things until Dani turned her into the FBI. But later in her life she needs to take on a job, and she knows that she's not going to be able to achieve it without magic, without her mom's help, and without the help of some other people. And so this is kind of just about her reconciling with her mom and then taking on this job and completing the heist, I guess. It sounds really fun and interesting. I've never read a book quite like that before, and I think the concept of using magic to steal things is very different. I also like the mother-daughter aspect, and I'm wondering whether it's going to be comedic or if it's going to have like a more serious note about mother-daughter bonds. Either way, I'm really looking forward to reading it. The next witch book that I'm going to be reading is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I have heard some good things about this book. It is essentially about a girl who, she's a witch, and she had a breakup several years ago, and she got drunk and she put a curse on her ex-boyfriend, but she feels like it wasn't that bad because she just used like a little candle, nothing crazy. And now, as the book's taking place, this ex-boyfriend has come back to town, and as soon as he comes back to town, he just starts having all of these bad experiences. There's all kinds of crazy things happening to him, and it kind of goes from like silly little calamities to like, oh no, I'm gonna die from this stuff. So she has to work with him to break the curse essentially that she put on him, It seems like it's giving second chance romance. I really do think there's going to be a lot of comedy in this book, and I just think it's a cute concept that I'm really looking forward to reading. Funny enough, the next book on my TBR, This Spells Love by Kate Robb, is also about a witch who is going through a breakup and gets really drunk and decides to cast a spell. This time it's on herself, and she wants to erase her boyfriend from her memory, and she finishes the ritual with a kiss from her platonic friend. And when she wakes up in the morning, she doesn't remember her ex-boyfriend, but also her life has changed and her best friend doesn't remember her. And so in order to reverse the spell, she has to get her friend who knows nothing about her now to kiss her. The book is just about the aftermath of the spell and her trying to get him to kiss her, and she realizes that she might be falling for her friend in the process. And I just think this sounds like another fun book. I love the concept of witches getting drunk and then doing magic. That sounds so funny and also so real. Like, people already get drunk to forget breakups and then make really bad decisions in the aftermath of breakups. So adding magic into that mix, I think, is just asking for trouble. And I really am looking forward to reading a couple books that have that sort of plot line. And I also like a friends to lovers romance, so I am super excited to read that one. Okay guys, my last book on my fall TBR is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I have heard so many good things about this book. I have had it on my physical TBR since last year actually, and I have not gotten to it. I am definitely going to finish it this fall. It is supposed to be about a witch who was an orphan, and she has to keep her magic under wraps because she's one of the only witches in Britain. But she gets asked to come to a home for witches and their young girls to mentor them. So she decides against her better judgment to go, and while she's there, she also kind of butts heads with the headmaster, who is super protective of the girls and is very hesitant about our main character coming in to help them. And the premise of the book is just found family, and it feels like it's gonna be a little bit of a romance. And I think it's going to be a really good, like, slice of life type book. I really haven't read a book before about found family that I can think of. And I think that that being the premise of this entire book is going to be really heartwarming. And I also think the idea of there being this sort of wayward home for witches and her going to help them is going to bring about some really fun storylines. I'm excited to see the growth of the characters and just this little found family come together, because most of the reviews that I've seen about this book talk about how much they love the found family aspect of this book. So I am looking forward to reading it and hopefully loving it. Alright guys, I know that one was kind of a long one. There were a lot of books on my fall TBR, and I really hope that in the next couple months I can get to them. I really would love to hear what you guys are looking forward to reading this fall, and if you have any of these books on your TBR, or if you've read any of these books and if you liked them or didn't like them, we can discuss that in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed my video. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I hope that you like me enough that you'll like my video and subscribe to my channel so you can see me next time with more bookish content. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, bye! In this case, boy, are you serious? I'm filming a video. For me, whether I read the first, whether I read the show, oh my gosh, or I watch the show, Yampa, go. The next book on my fall TBR is The Inheritance Gate